Hi guys, my name is Seth Brunson and I'm an engineer over here at IMPRES Technology Solutions. And today I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk to you about an exciting technology that a lot of our federal government customers are using right now and loving. And it's called VxRail. And in case you haven't heard much about it, VxRail is one of Dell's HCI or hyperconverged infrastructure solutions. And if you're not sure what hyperconverged means, it's basically a software-defined architecture that includes pre-configured compute, storage, and virtualization as a single appliance. So rather than having to buy a bunch of servers and then buy some storage and then buy all of your virtualization software and your management tools and trying to make everything work together on your own, you can now just buy a single appliance that has all of this stuff in one box. And it comes with the virtualization software and the management tools you need to run the whole thing. And the appliance is entirely software defined. That's HCI. VxRail is Dell's turnkey HCI solution for VMware with VMware to enhance VMware. So if you like VMware, you're going to love VxRail. VxRail comes as an appliance, but it has the same basic components as a regular server. You can see it looks pretty much like a regular server here. And depending on the model, you might also see some GPUs or graphical processing units, which are basically super-powered video cards that allow you to provide video capabilities to your VMs. This is required for things like VDI. So we can throw in a few GPUs, and when we connect a bunch of thin client users up to this VxRail, the GPUs make sure each one of those VDI clients has high-end video capability without actually having a video card inside any of these devices. So the VxRail sits in a rack safely in the data center where people can't mess with it, and it remotely supplies all of these thin clients with processing power, storage, video, and software. So these little client devices don't really do much except connect back to the data center. All the horsepower and data and everything lives over here in the VxRail cluster. One huge benefit here is if somebody loses one of these thin clients, you're only losing this little device. None of your data is compromised because it's over here in the data center. You can just give that user a new blank device. It'll pull everything that user needs back from your cluster. And that's just one example of what you can do with VxRail. It's awesome at VDI, but it can run just about any type of workloads that you need, including your tier 1 stuff. And aside from the hardware, each VxRail appliance also comes with a bunch of VMware software built in and ready to use. So we've got all the hyperconverged stuff like vSAN, which is the software-defined storage piece, vCenter, which you can use to manage the entire cluster from a familiar interface. It's got vRealize Log Insight, which is sort of like Splunk, but specific to VMware. So it lets you analyze your logs. And then vSphere, which handles the actual virtualization. We've got some deployment and some support tools built in, but one of my favorite features is it actually includes a whole suite of data protection software. And this stuff is all included. So what makes it cool? Well, one thing is you're going to be using familiar tools. You can actually use vCenter to control just about everything in your VxRail cluster. And since you probably love VMware as much as I do, you're already using vCenter every day to manage your virtual environment. So you don't have to learn any new tools. Dell's VxRail is also a single appliance that delivers a validated solution. So you don't have to worry about whether or not the parts are all going to work together. They've already been tested and validated. Dell calls this the buy versus build because basically all of the various components are architected on your behalf. So you get to focus on other things instead of spending your time configuring and managing the underlying infrastructure. Another important thing here is that VxRail is built to start small and scale. So you can start with a basic 4-node cluster here, and when it's time to add more capacity or performance, you just add another node. And this is non-disruptive, so you can add new nodes anytime you need to without any interruptions to your service. Not only that, but when you need to add more capacity, for example, you're also getting more compute power. and vice versa. When I need to add more compute, I'm also getting more capacity because every node includes compute, storage, and I/O. So every time you add a node, you're just making your entire cluster faster and you're adding more capacity. But again, one of my favorite features is that VxRail actually includes a suite of built-in data protection by default. This includes active-active stretched clusters with continuous availability for DR. We've got recover point, vSphere replication, vSphere data protection. These are all great pieces of software on their own, but they're included with VxRail. Let's take a little bit of a closer look at the stretched cluster for a second. So here we've got 2 or more sites, all of them having a full cluster of VxRail nodes, and these could be anywhere in the world. So site A could be running applications that are specific to that site, and site B has its own set of applications and requirements. But the cool thing is, even though they're supporting different people and running different applications, they act as high availability failover targets for each other. So if site B goes down entirely, site A can temporarily pick up the slack and keep those applications running until site B is back up again. This really is an incredible feature, you guys, and it's built into every VxRail cluster by default. And we've got a lot of customers that are using it this way right now, which really is the right way to be using it. But you might be asking yourself, hey, what if I don't use VMware? Well, why would you use anything else? I'm just kidding. So I know lots of people prefer Red Hat's KVM or Hyper-V or Citrix or whatever. And while it's true that VxRail is specifically built around VMware and it only works with VMware as the hypervisor, Dell does have some other HCI options that don't require VMware. So we've got PowerFlex, which is previously known as VxFlex. This is very similar to VxRail in that it comes as pre-configured compute, storage, and management all in one box. But rather than having to use VMware and vCenter, you get to load any kind of hypervisor that you want. And this thing uses VxFlex operating system, which is also known as Scale IO, to manage the cluster. We've also got the XC series, which is a similar concept, but this one specifically uses Nutanix software as the HCI platform. And these appliances run on Dell boxes as well. A third option is to actually migrate your existing VMs over to VMware. And I know this might sound a little bit crazy, but there are tools that make this pretty easy to do. And we've actually got some customers who are doing this right now, just so they can get all the great benefits of VxRail. So who's the competition? Why would I choose Dell? Well, there are a ton of HCI options out there, including solutions from the obvious companies like Cisco, HPE, NetApp, etc. Everybody's got their own way of tackling HCI, but here are some ways Dell's VxRail stands apart. First, VxRail is the only fully integrated, pre-configured and tested HCI appliance that's jointly engineered with VMware. It's powered by vSAN and vSphere, and it's the easiest and fastest way to extend a VMware environment. VxRail provides a simple, cost-effective, hyper-converged solution that solves a wide range of your challenges, and it supports almost any use case, including those tier 1 applications and mixed workloads. We've also got automated system updates that are guaranteed to work together. So you can do one update for the entire system rather than manually having to update every individual component. Imagine most people probably have 50 different servers, all with different components, and they need to go track down the updates and drivers for each of those systems separately. This can take forever. With VxRail, you can run an update wizard and update the software and firmware stack of that entire VxRail cluster with the push of a button. And that can even include things connected to the cluster, like your thin clients. You guys, this is a massive time saver. You've also got only one vendor to call if anything breaks. So you don't have to call one company to troubleshoot your servers, another for your storage and your networking, not to mention all of your software. With VxRail, you make one phone call and they can help with anything related to the entire cluster. And if you've ever had to call tech support, you know this is a pretty big deal. Also, the software-defined storage component of VxRail is vSAN. And vSAN is integrated with the vSphere hypervisor at the kernel level, which provides the shortest path for I/O and doesn't use up all of your CPU resources. This just means it's super fast. So this is different than most other HCI solutions because the other guys require a virtual storage appliance, a VSA, that has to run on a guest VM, and that VM has to fight for resources with the other VMs. VxRail's vSAN runs on the kernel, so there's no resource contention. Again, this is just another way of saying it's fast. And that's it. So this was just a high-level overview, but I hope you can see how excited we are about this VxRail technology. And if this is something you feel like you might be interested in learning more about, please reach out to us and let us know if we can talk to you a little bit about it to see if something like VxRail would be a good fit for you and your organization. Thanks again for your time and have a nice day. Until next time.